There's Adelaide, an orchestra, a community choir and a massive percussion choir leading the midnight celebrations in South Australia. A spectacular sight as South Australians look to the future.
I'm not a futurist, but I suppose I see things progressing in such a way that the rest of the world is starting to see Australian art as something that's up there with the rest of them internationally. Because we're a big country, we tend to forget that we're only 18 million people, and therefore the proportion of great art is not enormous. But I think people are starting to see that what's good is really good and equal to anything in the world. In all sorts of ways, we don't seem to be locked into having to be beholden to particular traditions, and hence that kind of larrikin mode that we're able to say, to hell, if it works, we'll do it. So I think a lot of people are doing that. I also suspect that on the distance factor, I personally believe that the digital revolution, and I guess that's the one thing to say about the future, is that people will look back in 50 years' time and say the digital revolution equaled the industrial revolution 100 years ago. That's what we're going through, and it's changing our world in ways that we can't even foresee at the moment, and very rapidly. I guess what's going to be very interesting in the future to see which forms of live performance survive. I'm not one of those people who kind of whinge and say, oh God, the theatres aren't full because young people aren't going to the theatre, and therefore Generation Y doesn't like the arts. I mean, this is total rubbish. Of course they do. It's just that Generation Y are consuming their arts in very different ways. So I just think that a lot of people in power have to recognise that art is rapidly taking on new forms. And if live performance is to persist, then I guess people have to make sure that somewhere it connects with a generation who basically see their arts coming in digital forms.
Well, still more fun to come. Queensland, the Northern Territory, WA, still to come as our countdown clock reveals the seconds in each slowly ticking away. The fact they are ticking, of course, bears testimony to the fact that much of the hype surrounding the Y2K computer bug was just that, hype. But if the experts are to be believed, this won't be a non-event either, and officials are on duty in Canberra to deal with the bug should it strike. And on hand at the Emergency Management Authority headquarters in Canberra is Sarah Clark. Sarah?
Yes, hello. Well, I actually happen to have Senator Ian Campbell, who's with me. He's part of the federal government and has been overseeing the Y2K situation for a number of years now. As far as the Y2K bug's gone, how is it a happy new year? Well,
it has been so far. There's no reports of any incidents, which is fantastic news for Australia. Of course, you know, we'd expect more information to come in as time goes by.
And at this stage, basically, these states and territories that have ticked over, they are on daylight saving. Does this mean have any good indications for the rest of the country? Will it fare okay?
Look, I think if the states that have gone through it now are in good condition, that augurs well for South Australia and my home state of Western Australia.
When will we know Australia-wide whether or not we've passed the Y2K test?
We're going to make a full and comprehensive report on the state of the nation at about 4 o'clock this morning, so we should have some very good detail by then. We've got information in from telecommunications carriers saying there's been no failures in that area, so that's good news, and no adverse reports so far.
So a good report card so far?
Yeah, it looks really good so far, so we're pleased. Still a little bit nervous, but that'll be great.
Okay, thank you, Senator Campbell. Back to you, Maxine.
Thanks, Sarah. I mean, you have to say, George, I mean, Y2K has been a work experience project, hasn't it, for computer programmers and line programmers? It has, hasn't it?
And journalists.
Work experience.
And journalists,
that's right.
let's face it.
The overhyped story of the year.
We were right into it.
2 years.
But, yeah, but as they said earlier, it's not necessarily all over. But, yeah, the hype was certainly amazing, wasn't it? I mean, it really was a choice between absolutely nothing happening, or as H.G. and Roy might say, bugger all.
That's right.
And the end of Western civilisation and Eastern civilisation as we know them.
OK. George, I think we're going to have a look now at that finale of the Sydney fireworks, which Roy and H.G. alluded to, the wonderful spectacular over Sydney Harbour. What are you going to do now? Going to have a kip and you're going to reappear, on the dawn?
I feel like I've been here for an eternity.
You have.
Already. And actually, the problem is I was going to blame the Millennium Bug for anything that went wrong. And things, thanks, folks, have gone so smoothly that I didn't really have to resort to that pathetic risk.
Well, having kicked the show off, you can now have a rest, and we'll see you, what, 5, 6 a.m?
I'm going to go and finish this Australian champagne and then have a little kip, and I'll be back around about 5, I think. Would you believe?
Terrific. We'll
To
see
meet
you
all the
then.
people going home from the celebration.
Absolutely. Thanks, George.
You enjoy yourself.
Thank you. Of course, the fireworks from Sydney Harbour. Here's a replay of the finale. There it is, the tribute to Arthur Stace, eternity, or as Roy NHG said, a bloody long time. Well, as we've mentioned earlier, 2000 Today is an international event involving broadcasters across the world and an estimated 6,000 staff in 68 countries. While we've been concentrating on our own part of the world, there's been plenty happening elsewhere. there are some of the highlights from around the world there. And if you could just roll up the auto cue there, we'll see what's going on next. OK, we're going to Machu Picchu now, some of the world highlights, with 60 separate satellite paths tonight being used to carry the pictures around the world of the turn of the century. Here in Australia, the partying is well underway, and here's why.
Kunyala kunchis, mama pachamang, haywanan chispach, kankunang, hatun koya, akhlakuna, kay haywarita puririchisiunchis. Hatun apu, lo kapas muna ini kita hunt aspang. Apu ay napikchu. Apu putukusi. Apu Machu Picchu. Apu salkantay.
In this reenactment of an ancient Inca ritual, the courtiers of the Capac Inca, the supreme ruler, and held to be the direct descendant of the sun god, now gather in one of the plazas to celebrate the dawn of a new era. The sun has come full circle in its path across the sky, and it's time to make an offering to the earth goddess, the Pachamama, in the hope of a bountiful harvest in years to come.
Taita Inca, Osni Pirikuni, Rampuo Keta, Yurak Onimpitach, Rikuni, Halingwatas Kanka, Askamikunanchis Kanka, Kosikunanchis, Kosikunanchis, Habahinka, Halingwatan Kanka, Sumach, Tikarin Kalpanchis. Askamikuna kanka, kosikunanchis, kotikunanchis. Chaitang rikuni kabahinka. Oyari kinyang haywa. Kurakakuli alintang rimarenki. Togun son kongwang. Chay suma haywaita. Kunanka, ipenchis me, ochorikosunchis, Hai Rispa! Hai! Somachta, Yupai Jaspa in Titaitan Jista, Kachlatata Haiwarisunsis, Pachabamama. Kaya Watakama.
That, of course, was Machu Picchu, the sacred city of the Incas in Peru. So I am sorry, I gave you the wrong introduction to that. You're watching 2000 Today. We'll look now at some highlights from the east coast of Australia. That's how it looked in Sydney, Melbourne, Hobart, Adelaide. But now we're getting close to Queensland's midnight moment. The countdown tells the story and indicates the relentless advance of 2000 on the Northern Territory and WA, both still some way off. In a moment, we take you to Brisbane, but first a word from a Queensland and an Australian icon.
The question of what I would like to see in the new millennium is such a big one that I find it rather difficult. But I think back to 1939. I was very poor and more or less friendless in those days. And King George VI said, and I remember his words, he said, I said to the man that stood at the gate of the year, give me a light that I might go safely into the unknown. And he replied, go out into the darkness, put your hand into the hand of God, and it shall be to you better than a light and safer than a known way. I've come a long way since 1939, of course. I think of all the cities of the world where my name's in front of the public and how we export to the world. We are still a nation of pioneers. There's so much to do. There's water to be sent to the southern cities who will perish ultimately without water, such as Adelaide and Perth. And there's ample water in the north which can be transported from places like Lake Argyle. There's still railroads to be built. And the empty Australia has to be utilised. If we do not do it, somebody else will. Well, I remember quite well a hard-working old shearer who was a gun shearer. He had a favourite poem which I've kept in mind. I was never a great believer in the thing that men call luck, for it takes hard, downright digging ere a vein of gold be struck. Dame Fortune may be fickle, but none of us can deny that she loves to lay her treasures at the feet of those who try. Yes, that's my message to the young people.
And of course, as many millions will do all over the world today and tomorrow, in the day to come, Queenslanders are also arriving at their New Year's resolutions. Some of them shared them for our cameras.
The next thing we're going to be doing, I was telling you that you need to put the gaffer tape on extremely tight. You also need to wrap it around really well in the corners.
That's the charge, kids. Half a pound of black powder in a cotton bag around a bit of Kool-Aid. We're just going to put it here on the ramrod. We'll tape it on, cheat a little bit so that it doesn't fall over.
I'd really love for all the Australians to get more Olympic seats to all the events. We hardly got any.
Without it falling over and having to panic about getting it back out again. All right? Now we push this right down till it's home. Then we put a spike into that little bag down this hole here. That's to hold it while I pull the ramrod back out.
One of my dreams to stop was around the world, and the other one was to go to the Olympics and watch the swimming.
For someone to cure all the viruses and diseases around the world. And I'd really like people to let our peacekeepers come home for Christmas in the year 2000. I think they'd like that too.
Just twist the ramrod round a couple of times to break the tape, okay?
No more taxes, Australia's own president, and no more poverty.
No more bills. They cost too much, especially fuel bills.
Now, what we've got here is the wadding, which is just shredded paper with some fish and chip oil in it. Makes it smell good. Also gives the barrel a bit of oil, stop it rusting. So we just pack this down tight. The tighter we pack it, the louder the bang.
They could get like solar cars and all that and stop all the pollution.
I like Cooktown just as a small place. You don't have to worry about strangers. You can ride your bike around the town.
Happy Millennium, Australia from Cooktown! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, not quite yet. Almost, not quite for Queensland. But of course, you're watching 2000 Today, really the most ambitious live world television event in history. I know that's some claim, but it's we believe it to be the case. Over Over 60 nations are taking part in this at a totally unprecedented level of cooperation. And as you know, we of course are moving westward, all up for over 25.5 hours from the first seconds of the new century in the Pacific Islands, which we certainly went through quite a few hours ago, to the last light of the 20th century in Western Samoa. 60 satellite paths are transmitting as broadcasters from all around show how the world is celebrating the arrival of this new year. Well, as I said, we've done a lot of talking about Queensland's midnight, now the moment. So it's nice to be going to my hometown. Glasses are now charged across the great state. Old Lang Syne is about to get its annual airing in Queensland. Now, to take us through events from Brisbane, Peter Lewis. Peter, how are you again?
Maxine, fantastic. It's a tremendous build-up to the new year here. We've seen the scenes from other places, but now it's about to happen here in Brisbane. It's a tremendous night. As I said, it's been wonderful weather today, and it's attracted people from all over the world, including one person who's probably come further than most. Alex, how far have you come?
Hi, I come from South England, Portsmouth.
And you certainly wouldn't be in the bathers and in the swimming pool over there this time of year, would you?
Certainly not, no. It'd be probably raining and really miserable, probably -2 or something, yeah.
Now, what's brought you to Brisbane?
Well, I'm searching the world for my soulmate, but I'm also basically travelling around as well.
Well, there's 150 to 200,000 people here at South Bank. You might find them.
I hope so, somewhere.
Now, you're also looking for a job. You want to turn this into a bit of a working holiday?
Yeah, I got a work visa, and I'm basically wanting to get some work, so, you know, and travel on as far as I can for, like, I don't know, even up to a year.
Now, any special New Year's wish, any new resolutions being so far away from home? Anything special about that?
Nothing much, really. No, I haven't thought of any New Year's resolutions, but one is I'm going to try harder. She's out there, I know that.
Fantastic. Well, enjoy your stay in Australia, and all the best for the new year.
Excellent, thank you. I'll see you later.
Fantastic.
I like
He's
that,
off.
Peter.
And of course,
searching for a soulmate mate on South Bank. That's rather nice, isn't it? It's got a ring to it. Searching for a soulmate on South Bank.
They're all out there. You just have to find them. Now, hopefully everybody that's here tonight, as I said, we're at a man-made beach right in the middle of Sydney, in the city. Hopefully everybody can swim as well as Alex, but just in case they can't, there's an army of surf lifesavers are here. Belinda, it's a massive effort by a lot of volunteers to just keep this place safe, isn't it?
It is. It's very hectic here tonight. I think half of Brisbane's here, so we're being kept very busy.
Is it so far so good? Everybody behaving themselves? No major incidents?
Most people, not too much around the pool, but a few first aid cases we've had to attend to.
Tremendous. And I think the fireworks, of course, signal New Year's. Any special resolutions for you?
Just to behave myself.
And are you a Queenslander? Is this home for you?
Yes, it is.
And is it a special time, special build-up? You've been here working around South Bank Parklands now for a couple of years. A lot of changes here, a lot of money being spent to upgrade it and make it more accessible for more Queenslanders. Exciting place to work?
Yes, definitely. I think anything's exciting at this time of year, let alone an establishment like this.
There it is. And as you can hear, it's all happening here in Brisbane. We might have had to wait an hour or so, but we're right into it.
We're looking at the fireworks there over the banks of the Brisbane River from the vantage of South Bank.
Based in this part of Brisbane.
Peter, I'm waiting for some big action on the water there.
It's all scheduled to sort of happen over through there. In fact, right round from South Bank right through to the Story Bridge, an area, of course, you would know, a couple of kilometres of river area. And by now, there's about 500,000 people that have crammed every available vantage point between here and Kangaroo Point to get the best views.
I can believe it. I think I can hear every one of the 500,000.
They're having a great time. The most amazing thing about this is huge crowd, but moving among them over the last couple of hours, very good natured. Everybody is, has put up with the inconvenience of having to be here for hours. There's been some great entertainment. The crowd is good, as I said. The weather is perfect for this sort of thing, and everybody's really heeded the messages to come along and party in the right sort of spirit. And it's fantastic to see. And as Belinda said, they were catering for a pretty big crowd here tonight, and so far so good. It's been really good. There's been no major incidents anywhere. Nobody's gone into the river. There hasn't been any problems like that. So the party's going off without a hitch. And we obviously have breezed through the Y2K problem without a hitch as well. Oh, good. That one got very close.
Well, Peter, I think that's been the spirit around the country. It's been enthusiasm and ebullience, but
well, indeed,
a bit of considered restraint as well. So that's good, especially when there are so many people crowding into the capital cities to see these sorts of fireworks.
And as you would know, that's pretty much a trademark of Queenslanders. They're pretty relaxed, pretty laid back, pretty confident, optimistic sort of people, and that's the spirit you get moving among people tonight. Is not so much apprehension about the new year, but anticipation, a lot of confidence. And of course, this is a pretty go-ahead part of Australia.
It's a terrific show. Yeah, it's a terrific show. Just looking at it here, Peter, and I feel I'm there with you.
Fantastic. No, it's a great. There's a lot of people like Alex that made their way to Brisbane, and of course, Brisbane is a magnet for people from all over Australia that have come and moved here. I'm a transplanted Queenslander, came up from the south. And the place has got an energy about it which does get you in, and it's not just when the fireworks on, it's here all the time. It's really going places.
Peter, I think Premier Peter Beattie must have you on the staff, has he?
Well, as you know, Max, we just picked up the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting for 2001 today from the ACT. I know they're a bit upset about that, but that's another feather in Queensland's cap. And of course, Queensland's like to do things big, and like to do things a bit differently. That's why we've still held out against daylight saving. we get to party just a bit longer than everybody down there in the south.
That's as good enough an explanation as I've heard. Peter, Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everyone in Queensland. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Maxine. Have a good one.
And I've got to take this opportunity to say Happy New Year to my mother, my sister and my niece in Brisbane. There you go, the family's up there. Just before we go on tonight, a quick recap of some colossal news stories, quite frankly, that have broken in the last couple of hours. If you have been tuning in, you will know that, in fact, Boris Yeltsin has quit as Russia's first democratically elected president. In a dramatic televised address to the nation tonight, Mr. Yeltsin said it was time for him to go, and he asked forgiveness for his mistakes. Prime Minister Vladimir Putin will succeed him until elections in 90 days' time. That's March in 2000. And of course, in Afghanistan, all the hostages on board that Indian Airlines jet have been freed. What a wonderful new year for them. They're expected to be flown to New Delhi shortly, ending an 8-day ordeal. It started Christmas Eve for all those, for the 160 hostages. The hijackers have been given 10 hours to leave Afghanistan after Indian officials agreed to their demands to free 3 Muslim militants. And ABC correspondent Tim Lester is in the southern city of Kandahar, the southern Afghan city of Kandahar. And of course, we will talk to him at some stage, perhaps in the next hour or so. Well, as we say goodbye to the 1900s, as we have certainly now on the east coast of Australia, we can pause to reflect really on the many people who made a difference to the lives of millions around the world. There are stories of great courage and determination, and it will be difficult to single out just one person who really did change the course of history. However, if there is a list of such people, one name on it would certainly be that of South Africa's President Nelson Mandela, or former president, I should say. He endured decades of imprisonment in the struggle for justice against the apartheid regime, yet throughout the terrible ordeal, his political will never faltered. Nelson Mandela prevailed in his fight against tyranny, and today millions of South Africans enjoy the freedom he came to symbolise, but was denied for so very long.
None of us can, from personal experience, look back over a millennium. It would likewise be over-ambitious to speak of hopes for the whole of a coming millennium. In fact, some of the worst excesses of this century arose when ambitious rulers tried to create regimes of 1,000 years. There is always change in human life, even as one day follows the other. What the turn of a century does, and in particular, the transition from one millennium to the next, is to bring a dramatic reminder of change and the possibilities of renewal. It makes us take stock of our past and consider our future. South Africans have much to be proud of. Their combined efforts brought a peaceful end to the inhuman system of apartheid and established a non-racial democracy. The world looks up to us as a miracle nation. The challenges ahead are no less enormous than our achievements. We are called upon once more to pool our energy in order to combat poverty and create a better life for all. In particular, let us make our country and the world a safer, more caring, and respectful place for the vulnerable. Let the abuse of children and women and the neglect of the poor remain behind merely as phenomena of the 20th century. I thank you.
Benjalo,
going to be making our resolution lanterns. Which one of you is going to be the one who is the first to make their base? Because the other person is going to help them by giving them sticky tape and holding it still for them.
Okay, lift it up. It's a ruler. No, just a second. No, just a second. Put the sticky tape down. Hold them down here, Jeffrey. Hold them down here.
You need to measure 14 centimetres down from the top. Come and get the resolutions that we've been writing down, and then you can write yours with a black texter on your tissue paper.
In the year 2000, I will help other people more.
I will stop dropping rubbish to help the environment.
To help others less fortunate than myself.
Is that the last one or the first one?
Didgeridoo, didgeridoo, didgeridoo. Listen to the sound of the didgeridoo. The land is red, the sky is blue. The sound of Australia is didgeridoo. Didgeridoo, didgeridoo, didgeridoo. Listen to the sound of the didgeridoo. The land is red, the sky is blue. The sound of Australia is
We're moving closer to one of the central themes, I suppose you could say, of this evening's telecast, and that is the dead heart of Australia, one of the things that define us. Counting down to the Northern Territory midnight, you're watching 2000 Today.
I remember when I was little, my dad used to always say how everybody's got a story, and in every story is the seed of a new world. A couple of months ago, I was up in Darwin, and I was lucky enough to get into the Darwin jail, though not in the way some of my mates reckon I got in. And it was predictably bleak and austere, and the men, nearly all of whom were Aborigines, lived in these hot, hard concrete cells. And in one of those cells, I came across a blackfella bloke called Chris Liddy. Chris Liddy painted the most beautiful pictures of barramundi and sea turtle and dugong. He was about my age, and he was telling me how he'd been taken away from his mother when he was 3 and brought to Darwin, and how he'd never learnt the stories and the language of his country in consequence. And he went on to say how these stories made him strong, how they reconnected him to his land and his people, and without these stories he was nothing. At that moment I realised this was the role of art, to be truthful to the land and its people and to tell its stories. And the moment it forgot this, it ceased to do anything worthwhile. And I further thought, why is it that we're so frightened of Black Australia when they're not there to damn us about our past? They simply offer us this vision of an extraordinary future, that if we could just open ourselves up to that, we might become a true republic of the heart and soul, and not the miserable, benighted people we seem to be at the moment. And as I stood in this hot, hard cell, looking at this most beautiful, serene painting, I realised the truth of what my father had said to me so long ago. If you would just listen.
Well, in the spirit of what Richard Flanagan has just said there, while our calendar has us celebrating the year 2000, Aboriginal culture in this country has origins that go back much further, 50,000 years or even older. Let's go now to Uluru.
It's Uluru is the sacred heart of Australia. It stands in the Great Central Desert of the driest continent on Earth. Uluru possesses a majesty and awe that draws over 500,000 visitors annually from around the world. The Uluru Kata National Park is World Heritage listed and is jointly managed by Parks Australia and the traditional owners, who call themselves Anganu. To the Aboriginal custodians, Uluru holds a special spiritual place in their lives. Uluru was formed by giant ancestors in the time of creation, or Chukopa. The Chukopa is the basis of all Anganu knowledge, law and religion.
It's the learning process that a child needs to go through from a certain age. As they get older, they go into greater detail, they learn about the significance of the land, and it's about learning of the land. Chukopa is learning and understanding the land.
There are many Chukopa creation stories that travel through the desert, teaching the Anganu knowledge of how to live in the land and read the signs of the seasons. One of the major stories for Uluru is of the two giant ancestral snakes and their epic battles, the scars of which can still be seen today on Uluru. This is the story of Liru, the poisonous snake, and Kunya, the python. In Anganu belief, the spirit of the two ancestral snakes remains alive in the rock. To keep the Chukopa, or law, strong, the Anganu elders pass the story and its teachings onto their children and grandchildren through secret initiation rites, storytelling, painting, and of course ceremony, or inma, where dance, music, song and body painting are woven into one expression of the Chukopa, the law and life itself.
Well, that's by way of background to what we're leading up to. And of course, throughout the world, up to 1 billion viewers are linking up with us live now as we go live to Uluru for nighttime as traditional elders perform the Inma ceremony, stories of creation and the law, and then move to a presentation of the Mimi, mischievous spirits of the night. And you've been watching there the very dramatic Inma ceremony of creation and law, as well as a Mimi spirit dance from Uluru. Well, joining me now from Perth ABC Television is Deb Kennedy. Deb, you've already had a Sydney midnight.
Indeed, I get two bites of the cherry.
That's right, waiting for your hometown.
That's right, and I'm currently speaking, I guess, to everyone from the next century, so that's something, isn't it?
That's right, that's right. What is it, an hour and a half away now?
An hour and a half away in Perth, so celebrations will be at a height, of course. Cottesloe we saw earlier, which was wonderful.
There were people packed on Cottesloe Beach.
It's been incredible, the weather over there. We've had 36 degrees for about a week now. I arrived here on Wednesday and the cool change was just spectacular. Spectacular.
Okay, well, speaking of places that have a similar climate, we're going to go to the Northern Territory now. And, of course, for the latest that is happening in Darwin, we're joined by Charlie King. Charlie, how is it up there in the big top?
Hello, Maxine. Yes, it's absolutely raging up here. Big street party on to our left. And all the hotels have been booked out in town, so thankfully everyone who's come in town to celebrate tonight are going to stay here and not take their chances on the road, which is good news. But we've had threats all week that big storms were coming, monsoonal rains were coming, and fortunately none of that happened. We've got fairly clear sky above us, although there's a cool breeze blowing in. That's a little bit of a worry, which means some rain might be coming behind it. But certainly we're going to get past the big moment without rain, and that's good news for everyone here.
OK, tell us exactly where you are, Charlie.
I'm actually down on the Esplanade just as the big fireworks get underway here. So the Esplanade is right alongside the beach here in Darwin, and we're looking out